Hope you enjoyed the last conversation. If you were sticking around to hang out with us, this is Open Source Friday, a time where we sit and talk to open source maintainers about their projects, their pain points, their wins. And today we've got a returning guest. You're actually our first returning guest, Gregor, so congratulations. Do you want to give a quick intro of who you are and why you're here?
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm Gregor. I am the maintainer of GitHub's Octokit for JavaScript and TypeScript. And I do maintain several established open source projects in the Node and JavaScript community. And yeah, and I'm here today to introduce you to Octoherd, which is like a project that I just started out and I thought might be interesting for your viewers.
Yeah, and I think this is probably the most, how would I say, as far as age goes, it's probably the youngest project that we've had on the stream. But we've had a lot of conversations about this, and I just wanted to point out real quick, folks, if you did not see the original conversation that we had around automating open source maintenance with bots and Octokit, there is a YouTube video, so definitely check out the GitHub YouTube channel. You can check that out. But today, we're going to talk about next level repository management. So like we're moving to the next level, and if you don't mind, I guess we could just go ahead and jump right into Octoherd and what Octoherd is. So you give a brief explanation, but do you want to talk about like where it came from and what it's sort of doing today?
Sure. So it came from me creating lots and lots of like atomic little scripts to do tasks because I'm an engineer and I don't like to repeat myself. So as soon as I see myself like doing a thing 3 times, I'm like, no, I'm going to script this. And because I happen to know the GitHub platform APIs very, very well, because I built all this tooling, I'm in a position where I can create these scripts very quickly. And I've probably 100 folders of these scripts, and I just create them once and then throw them away and never use them again. But over time, I just seen like recurring patterns, and I thought it's about time to put it into some kind of form which makes it easier to share with others. And Octoherd is basically it's more a pattern than any kind of framework. It gives you a possibility to create a single function, which gives you an Octokit instance and repository context and options that the user passed. And then you can run whatever you want on each repository that you loaded with the Octoherd CLI.
Yeah. So
and that's it. It's not like you need to know what you're doing. It's not like super end user friendly, but if you are a coder and you know the GitHub APIs a little bit, then this is a great tool for you at this point.
And I wanted to provide some context real quick too as well for folks who don't know who you are. You maintain this project, this SDK called Octokit REST.js. It's the Node library to manage interactions with GitHub's API and webhooks and then some. But my context with this is I actually have, and I wonder if I have a terminal that's ready to go. I actually have a repo where I have scripts for interactions with the GitHub API. And I don't think the terminal is going to come up. But actually, I'm not sure why that's not coming up. But we'll move on from there. But I have basically a long script of, like, if I need to manipulate a bunch of repos I have a second account called NotBeduggy. And I wanted to archive all those repos because it's where I put a bunch of junk code as I'm testing stuff. I fork a lot of stuff and manipulate actions in Probot apps and stuff like that. So I wanted to archive all my projects on that one account. So I have an Octokit script that I just run whenever I want to archive a bunch of projects. I have another use case too as well where honestly I'm thinking this. I know there's my terminal. I'm not sure why that took forever, but I've got this other thing called GitHub Craftwork, which is a way for me to teach automation on GitHub through GitHub. So we got this little repo, but then we have all these other repos that everybody who starts the workshop with me or does it on their own creates a repo as you go through it. So I wanted to write a script to transfer repos to the owner so that way I can just get rid of them out of the organization. those are scripts we don't have to solve today, but these are scripts that I have sitting in a folder
Hmm.
basically a JavaScript file to automate the process of this. Because at this point, like it just gets to the point where there's just too many people in the organization and too many repos that I need to do a script where I just look for the word CI and not my name. And hopefully people named it the proper way, which we have one person who didn't. And then it makes it even more challenging to run a script like that. But since we started a little bit late, I'm curious if you wanted to jump in and give us an example of things that we could automate through Octoherd.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to say regarding OctoKit, it's not only for Node, it's also for JavaScript, and it
Yep.
works with Dino now as well.
Oh, really?
I'm very interested in Dino, especially for CLIs. This is really great.
Did you
Okay,
did you work on the Deno or Deno option?
so yeah, it's the same source code, right? And Dino is just web platform, and OctoKit works in the browsers, so it should mostly work out of the box. There are some differences, and also Dino supports TypeScript out of the box. So there was some things I had to do, some problems that came up with Dino that didn't come up with the other platforms, but these are resolved now. So you can run Dino scripts with TypeScript support right now, and it's great because it's basically like a CLI with the browser security sandbox. So you can just run a script that is just hosted on a random website, and it won't be able to harm your operating system because it just can't randomly read and write files on your system and stuff. So it's very interesting, and it's actually perfect use case for Octoherd, and I really want to make Octoherd compatible with Dino. So at this point, you were talking about your scripts, and basically you could just, take one after the show and just try to convert it.
Yeah.
Like I have like a few, scripts that I created as examples here. And I just want to start with one that is a little bit more complicated because it has been asked for. And it's a way to synchronize branch protections. So, you use the Octoherd CLI and you pass an user authentication token, and then you pass the path to the script, and then you can pass on what repositories do you want it to run. So you can just pass a star and it will run on all repositories you have access to, or Octoherd/star runs it on all Octoherd repositories. And after that are user options that are specific to the script. In this case, I want to load the current branch protection settings of Octoherd CLI and then just apply it to all Octoherd repositories, right? So this is our use case. Like branch protections are kind of a PIDA. So we want to load it from one repository, which is CLI. Let me see what they look like. Octoherd CLI settings branches. Here on the main branch, so we require pull request reviews and we require status checks, and that's it. So it's quite simple, but we don't have the same on, for example, the scripts folder, I think. Oops.
I'm also understanding the name now. The
Actually,
reason
we
for
do.
Octoherd. It's clever because as you did you have maintainers in mind when you built this? Maintainers who have multiple projects like yourself, as you're trying to manage the herd.
Absolutely. Like maintainers, this is for you. If you are, if you do tons of open source maintenance or maintenance for your work and you have tons of repositories, this will save you a lot of time. All right, so here I just deleted the branch protection, and now let me just run the script as it's shown here. Let's see if this will work. So I have to pass in my actual GitHub token here.
Okay, I was going to ask if you're going to actually paste in a token, but it seems like you came prepared.
Exactly. I think the rest is good. Oh, no, actually, because I do not have access here. I'm in a different folder.
Okay,
So
so
this should work. So this needs to be like a path of an actual script. And I think that scripts and then sync and script. So this is the file that I'll be running, and I will show you the file in a moment. But
okay,
let's just see what's happening. And then I can also Octoherd. I can just enable more debug logs, and now let's pray to the demo gods that this will this will actually work.
excellent. Yeah.
So with npx, it installs it on the fly and just runs it. So if you have Node installed, you can basically just run it. And then again, like with Deno, there would be no install. Like you would need to install the Deno library, but you don't need to install any binaries or anything. And the script could be directly run from a website. All right, so it's running here. We have some logs. So it's loading all the repositories. It found the branch protections here, and there are some logs that I should remove. Anyway, and now, like one thing that it does, for example, is by default, it asks you to confirm any destructive request. So whenever you do a request, which is a delete or a put or a post, it asks you to do it, just because you don't want to break stuff. And this is not on Git. You cannot really just simply undo it. So here it asks me, like, do I want to update the branch protections for Octoherd CLI? And no, I do not, because this is already my template repository. And this is Octoherd scripts. So here I can say yes. And so it sent the request, it has like the debug information here with the properties that it did, and then it continues. But that's already it. So I can just, say no to the others. And then go back to my browser. And in theory, I should now reload. And here's my branch protection. So ta-da. This is the same protections that I had on the default branch on the Octoherd CLI. So far, so clear?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm actually intrigued to see what the script looks like too as well. Is there I understand installing the CLI locally, but the script itself, do you need to pass in parameters for it to interact with the CLI?
So you pass the path to the script right now.
Okay. But inside the script file, it doesn't need to know anything other than, it seems like, OctoKit?
Yeah. It gets an OctoKit instance passed through here, which is a custom OctoKit instance from Octoherd. So it has some features built in, like pagination and throttling and request retries and the confirm question, the confirm prompt that you have seen. And we probably add some more stuff to that. So, and then, it's checking if I pass this template CLI argument, and if it didn't, it would just throw. So in the script now, I have OctoKit, and I can do whatever I want, right? So OctoKit has request method, and here I can, just whatever, like get the current repositories, for example. And then what I get from the script as well is the repository object. So I can directly access that and say like repository owner, and you see you get like the whole IntelliSense, because OctoKit has very good TypeScript support for all the endpoints.
Yeah. So
you don't need to guess. So you can just, I know it's repository and then its name. And then like I could store the data like this. So, and now I would get all the information about the repository, which I already have, so I don't need to do it. But just to showcase, basically all 600 plus endpoints are here for you, and you can do whatever you want. And you can also use GraphQL requests as well with the GraphQL method, and you just pass in your query here. So in this case, I'm first checking if I already loaded the template branch protection settings.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, then I read out the parameter, and here I actually get the repository, the template repository, and I get the default branch. And for the default branch, I'm loading the protection. And then I have to kind of translate the response data into input parameters, because the format is not the same. So what I get from GitHub looks like this. It has like URL properties, and they're like enabled objects, and what I want for the update request is just a false and a true, for example, and I cannot pass all the URL stuff. So here's a method I created to clean that up. So once I have that, I have my template branch protection settings, and then I go here through the current repository. So I load the branch protection settings for the current repository's default branch. And then, I log it. And if there are no branch protection settings, then we are fine. And I create the branch protection settings. And otherwise, I log the current branch protection settings out so I can compare them. And that's it. So, it looks more than it is. And this is a pretty complex script.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening that I don't need to worry about, basically, which is what the whole Octoherd CLI does for you.
Yeah, and yeah, I love it. And then, so my next question is, so you're a maintainer of multiple repos in an organization. You have, let's just say, 25 repos, and you want to now you want to enable so you want to get auto merge, so you need branch protections. So can I run this on a number of repos at the same time, or do I need to update the script to do this as well?
No, you can just do whatever. Like, we can just do it on Octokit right now, right? Like the script that I had, like I have this installed, so I don't need to use npx. So it's just a parameter. Like, instead of Octoherd, I could say just run it on Octokit and use, like, I don't know, templates, and then Octokit REST.js as something as a template.
Oh,
and that
okay.
in theory should just work, and that's it, right?
Okay, so now I understand. I missed this part where you actually passed in the parameter of the organization, but your template is not. I was assuming the template was something you were pulling from the file structure somewhere else, but your template is actually, you're mirroring the template of Octokit REST onto the rest of the Octokit.
Exactly.
Genius. Okay, got it.
Like how do you define the branch protection settings, right? I mean, you could do it whatever you want, and as you said, this project is very early right now.
Yeah.
And once kind of the foundation is solid, I want to make it much easier to create these scripts and to fork these scripts and to share these scripts. So instead of blowing up these scripts with 1,000 options, I want people to come in and just fork my script.
Yeah.
And then just say, I want to read out the branch protection settings from environment variables or some kind of file or whatever. And that should be easier to do. And then we have, let 1,000 branch protection scripts bloom, and you just pick whatever you want. And if it's not there, pick what is closest to what you need, use it as a template, and edit it. So yeah, I better stop there because I don't want to update any Ruby protection stuff.
Yeah. So I guess my next question is then, because I know we're short on time, where can folks find scripts or suggest scripts for Octokit? Or maybe, like, I guess let's just leave it at that. Where can people find existing scripts, but also request scripts?
Yeah, so right now the best place is probably the Octoherd scripts repository, and they can just check out the scripts that I have created here, and they can create issues and ask for more. And I think you and I, we had some discussions ourselves.
Yep.
I've also just yesterday found out that Stowe created the same repository, and they have just did the same thing, and they just created their own repositories right here, scripts right here. So that's easy enough. But I think what I want to do next is just publish scripts to NPM, one script per package, and then just make it very easy to create the scripts and to maintain these scripts and to test these scripts and to easily update these scripts for compatibility with new versions and so on.
Yeah.
So that's probably the next thing that I will work on. So yeah, the best way to start is you have an idea you want to do, create an issue, and then just try to build it yourself, and I will help you along the way. And I'm pretty sure you come up with use cases that I didn't consider yet. So we can, iterate on the foundation. And then the next step is, to make the scripts more easy to distribute and to share.
Yeah.
And once we have that, or in parallel, as I already mentioned, I want this to be compatible with Deno, which will make it much easier to run these scripts, for example, in GitHub Actions too, because there are no dependencies, right? It will just run, and you don't need any build step or anything.
Oh, that's actually pretty powerful. Real quick, with GitHub Actions, what not a lot of people know, but GitHub Script it's an OctoKit powered GitHub action, and you could actually run shell commands within your GitHub Actions as well. So imagine if you had a cron job of like keep everything consistent across the board for all your repositories. I saw Stowe's labels, something that I try to stay consistent with across my repositories, which I'm not really good at, is keeping labels consistent. The other thing is like the contributing MD. Like I have the same rules in all my projects, but I don't keep them up to date everywhere. So if I update my sort of, I don't know, my pinnacle project of like in your case maybe OctoKit REST, you want to update the rest of the OctoKit libraries with the same contributing MD, the same code of conduct, the same et cetera, et cetera. Interesting.
Yeah, but then oftentimes it's like in 90% you want that, but in some cases you don't want to override the contributing MDs that you updated specifically for this, right? So it's something that you can kind of automate to an extent, but then you want to keep some control, and that is something I want to take into account with the CLI. So it would be nice to kind of have diff use, for example, like, hey, if you run this command, like this is the current contributing MD and this is the new one, do you want to have this update? But instead of going manually through every repository, you would have it right there and you go step by step and you don't lose context. So yeah, actions are powerful, and this is definitely a good target for that if you want to automate them. Also, what I didn't show yet is you can write scripts to gather data. It's actually an idea from you that you had, right? So I created this script to find. Oops, this is not mine. To find releases. And then, what it does is the whole logging is the end of the script. It will log like a path of where it created a file with the log data, and this is just new line delimited JSON. And then you can use this JSON and do all kinds of analytics with it. So you could use like JQ, or what I did is I can quickly show. I uploaded it to BigQuery.
Okay.
Basically the output of Octoherd, right? And then you can load a BigQuery as a source for this data studio and can very quickly create this kind of reports. And that's something that I think I'm also very interested in, because for one, you have these scripts that you want to update stuff and keep it in sync. And the other one is you kind of want to run this complicated reports or like get data like once per week or something, which you could also run in an action and then just write the raw data log somewhere and then have some reporting on it. So you can do that with Octoherd as well. That is within the scope of the project. And then ideally, I want to be able to share these reports too. It could be very interesting.
Yeah, it's valuable information, and I think it's the challenge is the limitation of like GitHub's rate limiting. Like we do have a rate limit, so like you can't just scrape all your stuff all the time, every hour. But to be able to have scripts that are ready to go and models that maintainers can share across organizations, I like this, and I like the fact that these we're starting to see. Well, we have this script which is Octoherd script, but also Stowe, who also has an Octoherd script as well. So seeing the collaboration is nice. So I'm curious, what's your thoughts on centralizing all the scripts? Will there be like a database in the future for folks to look forward to?
Yeah. So I think where I want to go is to make it more atomic. We were before a call you talk about monorepos. Basically, the script repo is a monorepo right now, but I want it to be separate repositories or even just gists. But I think repositories would be great. And then I would probably utilize a GitHub action, which you install on these repositories, and that way I know all the scripts out there, and I can also help you run your tests and run your tests against a new version of the CLI and so on automatically. Basically, like a dependent bot specific for Octoherd scripts. So that's my idea right now. And with that information, I could also create a website where people can just search and just find the script whatever they want, and then run it directly. So ideally, you would have the Deno CLI, and you would get like one URL that you paste, and then it will include both the CLI logic and the script, and you can just run it out of the box. Yeah, and for me, the end goal of this is, or not the end goal, but kind of the next goal would be to just have a nice web UI where you run this stuff.
Yeah.
Because OctoKit works in browsers, so why not? And then you can provide a nice UI, like an OAuth login, and better like ways to define settings, or like automatically provide the reports that could be published together with the scripts themselves. You could basically publish like a report script which reduces the data to something usable. And then, you can kind of just have an online editor, ideally with all the IntelliSense that you've seen in VS Code, load one of my scripts or a script that exists and just edit it and run it right after and rerun it until it does what you want.
Yeah.
So once we have that, then, we'll be at a point where you can really just create a script like this in 5 minutes and run it, but also leave it in a place where others might find it. And even if you never use it again, they might need it, or they might use it as a starting point for their own script. And this is where I want to get with Octoherd. So it's a great time to get involved.
Yeah. Folks, if you're looking to contribute to a project, provide insight, some value, or just get value out of it, the way to get value is by asking questions and seeing if this thing will work for your projects. So, Gregor, we're going to have to round up the conversation now. Folks, if you're interested, definitely check out the meetup page. This is where we're going to be posting our future conversations with other maintainers. I believe in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a GitHub Action maintainer talk about AI-powered GitHub Actions that do visual testing for your websites. That's actually next week. And the week after, we have the maintainer of Octoprint, which is a 3D printing library. 3D printing open source project. So Gina's going to be coming on to talk about that as well. So like and subscribe, hit the bells and all that other stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Gregor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.